Great to see you here. In this video I'm recording the lesson 5, introducing project management terminology, and this is part 1. When we look at the content of the lesson, we will look at the following items. We'll look at requirements, the scope, WBS or the work breakdown structure, work packages and activities, activity on the arrow and activity on the node, diagramming methods, early start, early finish, late start, late finish, slack or float and the critical path, definition of the Gantt chart and its different uses, principles of project follow-up and earned value, and of course you will have a discussion forum and an end of lesson multiple choice quiz. Now when we look at the learning outcomes, after completing this lesson you will be able to define and interpret important project management principles and terminology that is used by project managers worldwide. Basically, you will learn about these terms so that whenever at this moment you will meet people who are dealing with project management and with projects, that you will understand what they are saying. So basically that's what this lesson is about, to provide you with the information about these things, and later we will be looking into the practical application of them. You will also be able to identify different scheduling methods like the activity on the arrow and the activity on the node. You will be able to differentiate between the arrow diagramming method, the precedence diagram method, and PERT. You will be looking at the principles of uncertainty in project planning, typically related to PERT and 3-point estimation. You will be able to differentiate between the different scheduling methods, define the critical path and its importance, interpret follow-up data, and describe problems with classical follow-up using cost only, and also applying the principles of earned value management. I will only talk about the principles so that you understand what elements you have to take into account when you are looking at cost information about a project. The first thing is the work breakdown structure, which is in fact also called the WBS, and it's in fact developed using teamwork. Now, when you're a small team or you're the only project man or person in the team, well, then you are the team. Otherwise, when you make it, it's very important to do it together with the team, and it's basically an hierarchical overview of the project. What is not in the scope should not be in the WBS. The elements that are there are only related to the approved scope, and that is it. Now, when you look at the lowest level of the work breakdown structure, you have the work packages. And we'll talk about the work packages a little bit later. Now, when you link the WBS to the organizational chart of the company or the organization, and you will identify control accounts for cost budgeting and control. So basically you create the organizational breakdown structure, linking the work packages or groups of work packages to the organizational breakdown structure, so you know who is in fact doing the work, who has to pay for it, so you understand how the project financially is organized and how it is organized within the organization. We have the classical tree format, so we have the first level or level 0, which we call it typically the project itself, and we go lower and lower and we increase the details about the project. Now the lowest level here indicated by T11, 21 and so on, these are the work packages. Now this is a very interesting overview of the project. We have a nice view how the project is organized. Nevertheless, it is not always interesting because we cannot add additional information to this WBS. It's very good to follow up the project because when you have the lower level activities or work packages, when they are completed, the level above is also completed, and it gives a very interesting, nice schematical overview of your project. So when people are looking at a project with the tree format of the WBS, they get a very clear overview, and it's very important, very easy to draw. Basically, some people use like mind maps to create it, and then you create the tree format. Now, it's very practical for certain elements. It gives a very nice overview. Unfortunately, there is also some information that cannot be displayed. And when we have the table format of the WBS, that's already something completely different, because here we can add more information about the different work packages when the different levels are planned to be completed. We can have financial information, we can have planning information, and we can have actual completion information like start date and finish date. We can find the cost of the project. We can use this to do calculations related to earned value management. Basically, you find this table format in many softwares, like we will see later when you look at Project Libre. Project Libre is a free software you can download. You just Google Project Libre and you find, in fact, the free software to download, and you can install it in your preferred language, and everything is interchangeable. You can also change it or exchange it with Microsoft Project programs. Now, the thing is, when we look at the tree format of the WBS, we cannot add any information there. And in order to be able to do that, we use something which we call the WBS dictionary. The WBS dictionary will be discussed later when we go to the start of the initiation of the project, the scope processes, the first step in planning, where we will create the work breakdown structure. We will also talk about the work breakdown structure dictionary, the WBS dictionary. That dictionary is basically a detailed overview of that element of the WBS. You can add more information, you can relate it to cost, to timing, and things like that. So basically, it's very interesting to share information. Now, we spoke about it, that the lowest level of the WBS is basically the work package. Let's have a look what the work package is. Defining what the work package is very important to understand how project manager thinks. And this is, in fact, a work package is the smallest building block. And it's basically, that's where you finish creating the WBS. Now, we can also call a work package as a sub-project containing more activities. Now, when we look at this, it's a work package. We will look at some examples later, but it's basically an activity that can be completed by one group and that is independent of other work packages. Basically, it can be one team dealing with this. Now, in order to consider this, basically the PMBOK defines that the work package is the effort required to produce a deliverable within the project. So basically you can estimate duration and cost and effort, all these things you can evaluate here. And typically a work package is assigned to one person or a team. Now, when we look at small projects, what happens is that the work packages may basically be activities, individual activities. We cannot decompose further, but typically when you have a very large project, you will see that those work packages are in fact mini projects. To illustrate that, I have some examples. So basically, when we look at a team that can operate independently to complete a specific type of work, for example, electrical work, plumbing, carpenting, painting, and many others, central heating systems, things like that. So basically, this is a general task that is done by one team. Now, in order to look at this, we have to see how can we split this, because when we look at the painting, there are different activities related to painting. We can paint specific rooms, we can paint the floors or treat the floors. Now, in order to do that, we have to organize sub-projects with different activities. The activities that will in fact lead to the final deliverable, that the walls, the ceilings, the floors, and certain other elements have been painted. When we look at central heating is done by the central heating team, which is a specialized team, but they have different types of work to do. Now, what they have the radiators, they have the conduits, they have the burner system, they have the computer system for the regulating the heating system. All these things are done by the same team, but they are divided in different activities. Now, when we look at the deliverable, we look at the subsequent steps to build a deliverable. So basically, we have in fact, we see that we have to do these different activities. We split it up so that we can organize the work accordingly. And like I said, in a small project, the work packages will be the lowest level of decomposition. Now, we all know the company IKEA, and when we look at a work package is in fact the chair. The chair is the deliverable. And those of you know IKEA, I don't know if you know it, some of you may and may not, but IKEA is a company that provides in fact different furniture items and that you have to assemble yourself. Now basically what you do is to follow this plan. You have the different steps to do. The final deliverable is the chair, but in order to do this you have to do subsequent steps. You have to find the different items, you have to bring them together, then you assemble the other part of the chair. So there are different steps. Of course, for the chair, this is very easy, but when we look at a deliverable, which is, for example, a furniture piece, it can be quite complex to deal with that. Anyway, it's a good way to show you what the work package is and what the instructions or what the activities are. So this was from IKEA. So this is typically when you see those do-it-yourself elements, and you can have it also when you have, for example, some other applications. Now, when we look at the dependencies of work packages and activities, we in fact have what we get from the WBS. We get the logical link between the activities. And what we have to do, we have to find the chronological order of the activities or the work packages. Now we have to bring them together. We have to see what you want to do. And let's have a look at the example of planting a tree. Now, when you want to plant a tree, what are the things you have to do? First of all, of course, you have to have the tree, you have to have the materials, but the first step is to make a hole in the ground and put the tree in there. So basically, digging the hole is the first step. Step 2 is planting the tree, and step 3 is filling the hole. Now, we call step 1 the predecessor of step 2. So basically, this means that we have to do step 1 before doing step 2. And we can only start with step 2 once step 1 has been completed. Step 2 is the successor of step 1, but it's also the predecessor of step 3. And basically, 3 can only be done when step 2 has been finished. And step 3 is the last step of this small project. Planting a tree, the deliverable is a planted tree. Step 3 ends the project and has no more successors. So basically, when we are looking at the precedence diagramming, when we are looking at the chronological relationship between activities, we're going to find out which are the predecessors. Step 1 has no predecessor, so it means that we can start the project with step 1. There is nothing before. There can be more than one step to start a project with. On the other hand, step 3, there are no more successors. That's basically where the project ends. So we start with the activities which have no predecessors, and the project ends when we finish the activities which have no successors. And in between, we have that relationship predecessor and successor. And that's what we're going to do in the different methods to create that network diagram. So you understand here how these things work. And this was the first part of this lesson. In the next video, I will look at the second part. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.